Hello my friends, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop, and welcome to the second video in one of my new Luthier Technique Tutorial videos, and this is acoustic bridge removal and reattachment. So here's the guitar in question, and you may remember that in the first video I removed the strings, scored around the bridge with a scalpel, then removed the bridge and removed all of the finish where I'd scored around it, and in preparation for reattaching the bridge. So it's really important when you do jobs like this to prepare your gluing surfaces. You have to remove all old finish or paint, glue, etc. And you can see I've done the same on the back of the bridge as well. It's all cleaned up, ready for reattachment. There was a line of the finish all the way around the edge of the bridge, which has now been removed. And so, preparing your gluing surfaces prior to gluing is very, very important. Any of these jobs, it's all about preparation before you start doing the job. So hence the scoring around the bridge with the scalpel to remove the finish and preparing the gluing surfaces. So when I recorded these videos, I didn't have my microphone plugged in properly, and that's why I'm having to do these voiceovers. So again, apologies for the voiceover itself and for the watermark on the screen, but such is life. Here we go. So in this video, I'm going to be re-gluing the bridge, but before I do that, I want to take my lighted mirror and take another look inside the guitar just to check again all of the braces, make sure there's nothing detached or loose or broken or missing. And from what I can see, everything seems to be just right, just the way it should be. Everything is properly attached. There's no braces coming away at the edges. The bridge plate all seems to be attached nicely. So I'm looking at where the braces go inside the guitar, and as I said, just checking that they're all properly attached and there's no damage or loose braces or anything like that, and it all appears to be just fine. So, as I said, the belly bulge that's in this guitar is not going to go away completely. Partly because the braces are still properly attached, but it will reduce a little bit. So I'm quite happy with the inside of the guitar. There doesn't seem to be any issues inside there. I've had a really good look twice now, and I don't see any problems. So I am a little bit concerned about the belly bulge, but it's always going to be there. I don't think it's going to be an issue, provided I reattach the bridge properly, unlike from the factory. So, as I said, the preparation is the most important thing. You've got to make sure your gluing surfaces are completely free of any old glue or finish or paint or anything. They're nice and clean, lightly sanded, to a fairly high grit of sandpaper, so that you've got a little bit of bite for the glue to attach to. So just checking the belly bulge again. I mean, I don't think it's really any different at this stage. It is what it is. So I need to make sure I've got all my materials that I need to reattach the bridge to the body. So obviously I need some glue. So you can see my little pot of wood glue there to the top right hand corner of the screen. And the glue I use is Type Bond Original from the USA. It is really, really good wood glue, and I use it all the time. It's quite expensive, but it's worth it. And I always have it in a little pot here. Got me paintbrushes in some water there. So I make sure I've got everything around me that I'm going to need. So I've got two different types of clamps to clamp this bridge back in place, and these are obviously crucial for the job. And it always pays to have everything you're going to need for the job around you. I've got some little wooden blocks and leather pads, and there's a leather pad stuck to the bottom of the clamp itself, and that's obviously to protect the wood, because you apply quite a bit of pressure using these clamps and you don't want to mark the wood of your bridge. They are quite delicate and they will mark easily. So without further ado, let's get into the job. So I've said many times before, as far as the glue coverage is concerned, incidentally, these are the tools that I need to put the bridge clamp on. So the bolts that go through the bridge pin holes, and then they've got wing nuts on the top. They're Allen screws or Allen bolts, and they've got wing nuts on the top to hold it all in place. Often they're quite a tight fit to get the bolts through, but you don't want to drill the holes out any because you're going to, have problems later on. So, as I've said, with the glue coverage, with joints like this that are going to be under tension, you want to make sure you've got good glue coverage. You don't need a thick layer, especially when you're applying pressure using clamps. A lot of the glue is going to squeeze out. If you've got too much glue in there, then you're going to end up with a right old mess. So what I like to do is just dab a little bit of glue on the gluing surface, like so, just a few little drops. Because it's you need enough glue but not too much. That's the key. So I'll just apply a few drops onto the surface itself, and then using a damp paintbrush, I spread the glue out evenly to make sure I've got 100% coverage, i.e. over the gluing surface area. So a nice thin layer but evenly spread out, so you've got 100% coverage. And I need to avoid the bridge pin holes. I can go around them but not right up to the edge of them, because I don't want glue squeezing into the bridge pin holes, because again, that can cause you a few problems later. So I spread the glue out nice and thin but even, 100% coverage. And I usually, but not always, but in cases like this, I usually apply glue to both surfaces. So you can see here I'm applying the glue to the top of the guitar, making sure I get right up to the edge, not leaving any gaps whatsoever, 100% coverage. So it's a little bit thin, so I'm just applying a couple more drops, and again spreading it out with the brush. I want to make sure I've got literally every square millimeter covered with a very thin layer of glue. And as I said, I prefer to put glue on both surfaces. You don't always have to. Many people would say that you shouldn't do anyway, but I kind of disagree. I think, if you're using a very, very thin layer, it does pay to put the glue on both surfaces. So here we go, on the back of the bridge as well. Again, a very, very thin layer, exactly the same as on the surface of the guitar. Very thin layer, evenly spread for 100% coverage. And again, I want to try and avoid the bridge pin holes, go around them for sure, but not actually into the holes themselves. You can obviously clean up the glue afterwards, but why give yourself extra work? You don't need glue inside the bridge pin holes, so you can just go around them. You can see I'm going between the holes there. You definitely want glue between them, but not in them. So it pays to take a little bit of time over this part. This is the most important part of the glue job, apart from the actual surface preparation, making sure they're clean and smooth and not too smooth, but sanded. But if you don't get the glue properly covered at this stage, you could end up with problems and having to redo the job. So very, very crucial to make sure you do this stage perfectly. and I'm quite happy with that. So I put the bridge in place, and it sits nicely in the the prepared area where I've cut away the finish, which it wouldn't have done from factory, I'm sure. So I just kind of push it into place, and then these bolts will go through from the inside, a couple of washers first, inside through the two end bridge pin holes. So you can see the first one goes through quite easily, and then the second one to go in the other end, and this one's a little bit tighter. Struggle to get this one in a bit, but like I said, you do not want to drill or file the holes out bigger to allow this bolt to go through, because you're going to end up with problems fitting your bridge pins later on. So I should have test fitted the bolts first, but I forgot to do it like I usually do. But it's not a big problem. I just get the Allen key and put inside and literally screw the bolt or screw through the hole using the Allen key. Takes a little bit of time, but it's better to do it this way, as I said, rather than to open up the holes. So it takes me a couple of minutes just to screw the bolt through the hole, but these bolts actually help to line everything up before you put the clamp on the top, and that's exactly what they're for. They're to ensure proper alignment, as well as something for the clamp to grip onto and to clamp down. But the main purpose of these bolts through the bridge pin holes is for alignment. And if you've got movement on there, your alignment is going to be problematic. So we'll just take a little bit of time to use the Allen key to screw this one through the hole. And once it pokes up enough, I'm able to grab hold of it from the top and turn it by hand. Because once it's initially through the hole, it will turn a bit easier. So I just want to make sure that everything's going to line up properly. So that's the bolt all the way through now. Just make sure it's screwed right up to the underside of the guitar. And as I said, there are washers on the inside of these screws, obviously to stop it pulling through. And just checking alignment one more time before I put the clamp on top. So the clamp has two holes in it, which goes over these bolts, and obviously you line up the contoured edge of this clamp with the contoured edge of the bridge. Make sure it's the right way around. And while I'm sort of pushing it down in place, I'm just checking for alignment again. A couple more washers on the top again, and then it's wing nuts on the top. They just make it a bit easier to clamp it all down by hand. And theoretically, the bolts should stay still while you turn these wing nuts by hand, but more often than not, they will spin. So I get the Allen key again once these are screwed down as far as they'll go without turning. So I get the Allen key inside, make sure everything's lined up inside the slot where the bridge is going to go, inside the cutaway finish, and screw the wing nuts down. And you'll start to see glue squeeze out, particularly on the right hand side as you look at it. But once again, you can see it's moved away a little bit, so I'm just trying to line it back up again before clamping it down tightly. So these parts, the wing nuts and the bolts, they pull the bridge down in the center. So you can see there are two thumb screws at either end of the clamp there to clamp down on the wings, as we call them, of the bridge, the outer pieces. So I'm just taking my time as I'm tightening the clamp down just to make sure the bridge is staying in the correct position. A little bit of adjustment here and there as you go. You know, this wood glue doesn't set immediately. It takes quite some time, so you've got working time. And that's another one of the reasons I like this wood glue. You've got working time. Some glues, they start to set up within a couple of minutes. And I don't like to rush this part of the job, because if I get this wrong, the bridge is not in the correct position. So, you know, it pays to take your time to make sure everything's properly in alignment before you clamp down. So having a little bit of, you know, work time with the glue is a very distinct advantage. So yeah, it's a little bit awkward getting the Allen key into the head of the bolt through the sound hole. You can't see what you're doing, and you can see there's quite a bit of glue squeeze out, certainly at the right hand end as you look at it, not so much on the left. And I think this belly bulge was a little bit more to the left of the body as you look at it on screen. So that kind of makes sense, where it's not going to be making such good contact there. And that's the good thing about these clamps, is, you know, they clamp down in 4 different places, 2 to the sort of outer edge of the middle, and to the wings as well. I've actually got 2 of these clamps. I've got another one made in wood, but I do prefer this aluminium one. It seems to work a little bit better. So now to the wings at the ends with the thumb screws. So there's a little wedge of wood, or a little piece of wood, and a little bit of leather underneath the wood to protect the wood of the bridge. And then this little piece of wood helps to spread the pressure, or tension if you like, once you screw these thumb screws down. And again, I'm making sure it's nicely lined up. Partly because I need room to clean up the glue squeeze out once they're in, so I don't want them jutting out over the edge. So I just carefully align them with the leather pad on the bridge and then the wooden block on top. Screw the thumb screws down and try to, you know, do the pressure evenly, so a little bit one side and then the other side. And as I'm screwing them down, you will see more glue start to squeeze out. But as I said, you can see that there's more glue squeeze out to the right than to the left. But it is starting to squeeze out, which is good. What I do notice later on is that this left-hand corner, as you look at it, doesn't quite make contact with the top of the guitar. So what I do is I grab a wedge of wood and drive it between the clamp and the top of the bridge on the left hand side. Just gently tap it in with a mallet, and that helps to push that down onto the surface of the guitar. But I don't notice that till later, and I do that off camera. So then I get this other clamp. These are great clamps, and I put this in the middle of the aluminium bridge clamp just to apply a little bit of pressure to the very center of the bridge, just to make sure I've got good pressure all the way across the bridge. I want to make sure it's attached properly. So yeah, these clamps are great. Unfortunately, I've only got one, and I wish I had more of them. So just push down a little bit on the jaw, and then this lever presses down in the middle. And again, you can see more glue squeeze out as I apply the pressure on that. That's exactly what you want to see. And so now I've got, you know, basically clamped pressure in 5 different areas across this bridge. And the key now is to, you know, clean up the glue. So I use a wet paintbrush to pull most of the glue out, and then a damp cloth to wipe the paintbrush. Just want to clean up as much as possible before it dries. You can clean it up afterwards, but why when you can do it, you know, clean it up properly at this stage? And that's why I like those end clamps not to overlap the edge, so that I can get right in there, clean up all the excess glue, make sure it's a nice clean job, clean finish, so there's very little cleanup to do afterwards. So, you know, all along the stages of these types of jobs, there are important things to do, to remember. You know, it's initial preparation, and then preparing your glue surfaces and proper glue coverage, proper even clamping pressure, and then, you know, removal of all the excess glue before it dries, just to make your life a little bit easier. And I like to leave this kind of clamping job at least overnight. I mean, you know, 12 hours minimum, to make sure you've got really good you know, adhesion and the glue has dried properly. And as I said, later on I do put a little wedge between the clamp and the bridge on the left hand side as you look at it, just to push that end down onto the surface of the guitar better, because there was a slight gap which I wasn't happy with. So yeah, so this clamping will be left at least overnight, probably well into the next day, before I remove the clamps. But again, you know, I'm just making sure I get all of the excess glue squeeze out, cleaned up, before I leave this job. And it does actually go really well. I do manage to clean up every last little bit of glue, which is exactly what I wanted. But yeah, we've got good even pressure all the way across now. So, you know, I'm happy with the clamping. I'm happy with the cleanup of the glue. But as you can see, I'll just keep doing it just to make sure I've got every last little bit. Right, so I think that's all the glue cleaned up. So as I said, this will be left overnight, you know, preferably 24 hours if I can, just to make sure, you know, we've got plenty of time for the glue to dry and the joint is set really hard and strong. The last thing you want to do is have to redo these jobs. It's always harder the second time. I mean, you know, you shouldn't have to. If you do all your preparation properly, like I've done, you shouldn't have to redo this job or jobs like this, you know, because it is all in the preparation, which I'm very fastidious about, and you know, it pays off. So that's it all clamped up. I'm really happy with the position, you know, the even pressure we've got all around, and cleaning up the excess glue, which I'm still doing. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to just keep going over it. Make sure you've got every little bit cleaned up to save you a lot of time and bother later on. So we're just checking the belly bulge again now. I think it may have reduced slightly, possibly not. I mean, it's still there, obviously, and that's not going to reduce any more than you can see there. I mean, especially once I get the strings on and they're up to tension, you know, it's still going to be there, but I really don't think it's going to be an issue. It's not that bad. As I said, I've seen a lot worse. The guitar top has got a memory, even the bridge itself has got a bit of a memory, but now that it's being reattached properly, you know, it's going to reduce that belly bulge slightly, but not all that noticeably, to be honest. But I just don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. It's not all that bad. I've seen a lot worse. So that's the end of this stage. In part 3, obviously, we'll be removing the clamps and checking to make sure that everything is all right prior to reassembling the guitar with, as I said, electric guitar strings. So that will be in part 3, the final part. In the meantime, please look after yourselves, look after each other. We will see you soon. Peace out.